Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special Thursday edition on twitch.tv/LotraStream. We're going to be previewing Update 39, Arenas of Conflict, here over the next hour, and I've got some guests with me to both talk a little bit about what it is that we will be previewing, in addition to taking some Q&A from the chat. So welcome, everyone in chat, and welcome, Orion. How you doing, Orion?
I am good.
I'm associating names and voices here is what I'm attempting to do. Myth, how you doing?
Doing great.
Great. Nice to have you here. And then Mahal is with me as well. How you doing?
Howdy. It's nice to be here.
So we're on Bull Roar. There's actually a Bull Roar preview happening right now through, I think, at least Thursday here. You could find more information on the Lotro forums. But we've got 3 instances in a raid arriving pretty soon here with Update 39. And we can talk a little bit more about even release date perhaps later on in the show, but we're going to be previewing this for the live stream. Spoiler medium. We're not going to be completing these instances, but we are going to be running around to the instance space and showing off some new content. So if you're particularly spoiler sensitive, this might not be the stream for you, but if you do want to get a sense of what's coming and hear it from the people who did some of the work, this is, in fact, the stream for you. So how you all doing? And yes, my cat is right here, is like, I don't care that you have a live stream. You're supposed to be taking me outside. This is not acceptable behavior, human. But there we are. We're going to go forward with it anyway and upset the cat and just sort of call it. So right now, you're seeing here is the first instance. This is the, let me call up the right pronunciation. Do you have the right pronunciation on this?
Streets of Rack.
I know,
Râhal
right?
Bâch.
Oh no! See,
Râhal
it's
Bâch.
Râhal Bâch, yeah.
Râhal Bâch. Okay. The Streets of Râhal Bâch, and this is a new 3-player instance. It'll be opening up to Tier 3. I guess we should mention that all of these will be opening up to Tier 3 with the release of Update 39.
Except for the raid.
Except for, the raid is Tier 1?
The raid, we're going to keep it Tier 1, and we'll go into that a little bit later on once we actually get deeper into discussions there.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about this Streets instance? It looks like we're really kind of going through town and engaging in some combat.
Yeah, so this is actually the completion, or at least a continuation of the story of this individual here, Kasha, who was first introduced all the way back in Angmar almost a year ago at this point. And you're actually just following along inside of the story that existed there and catching up to him inside of Angmar.
All right, and can you tell me a little bit about that red square we just saw? What's up with that?
That, I believe... On, do you want to take that?
There are a couple red squares here. Part of this instance is Myth. Feel free to chime in on more recent, but there are a couple different things that enemies are doing in this space that'll throw areas on the ground that you want to avoid, or that'll just harm you. Little areas on the ground that'll harm you. So a little bit of movement going on in this space.
Yeah, you'll see
the trash mobs.
This person right up here, this Jafai bomber, is getting ready to chuck some bombs at me, and thus I am on fire. So
anytime you see one of those squares kind of appear over you, yeah, that's about to be what happens, because you're about to get hit from above. And though you can attack those particular monsters when they're up there, it's not necessarily what you need to do.
Yeah, they're not coming down necessarily. Yep. So
there's 2 of them there. There's a Jafai volley, which is an archery hotspot. Then there's the fire pots. So
okay.
There's the archers and the fire bombers from above.
Turn this down just a little bit. All right. So tell me a little bit about the creation of this space.
So this was intended as like a chase through the city streets. So the idea is you're pursuing Cash App through the streets as these Jafai mercenaries try to get in your way and stop you, basically. So there are 6 different mobs we have for this instance. We just added recently the Summoner and Mender, which I'm not sure is in this build or not, but that's a healer who does a healing induction. And then the Jafai Lookout is the Summoner mob, which will summon more mobs into the space if you don't deal with them or prevent their induction. So,
Okay. For the purposes of people watching the preview, I'm on a regular play character. I am on a non-admin on Bulwer, just sort of showing off a little bit of the combat and running it like I normally would. That means this character can die. So that, you know... Well, at least I think so. But I also have some help with me. I've got Orion in the instance with me to just kind of handle any shortcuts we need to take as we're doing our preview and what have you. So we do have some kind of admin tomfoolery going on in the instance space that we're previewing here right now. Really
You're doing
just for
great so
aesthetic
far.
reasons. Yeah, well, you know, I'm a champion, so it's not doing too bad. And we're only on tier 1.
That definitely will make it a lot easier.
Probably the first thing that I should mention in terms of requirements to run the new instances that are with Update 39 here is that you do have to be level 150 in order to access them. But I believe that that is the only real gating for Update 39. You don't have to have gone through the Song of Waves and Winds story or something like that. It's just a 150 flag, is that correct?
150, and I believe you still have to have the expansion as well.
That's true, and you do need to have access to Corsairs of Umbar. This is the instance piece of Corsairs of Umbar, so... Alright, let me take care of these folks, and then pop up a different screen so that I can look at chat. Let me make sure this isn't going to mess up the camera. Oop, it does. Okay, let me... There we go. Now you're back. Alright, what kind of questions do we have from chat? Lore question. Which of the 7 fathers were the dower hands from? That doesn't sound like a question for this group, but does anyone know the
Make
answer to that?
lions!
Yeah, I'm going to say Maid of Lions is the one who might be able to answer that. I certainly cannot. Sorry.
I'm trying to remember. I should know this off the top of my head. But because when we originally conceived of them, it was so long ago. I honestly don't remember where we tied them to.
Yep.
Back then, we were actually working with a group of individuals who were overseeing the inclusion of anything that we were trying to tie into the game, because that was way back at the outset of the actual construction of the game. We started working with the dower hands. I honestly do not recall which of the 7 fathers we used.
Yep. Okay.
Ooh, I see a question about music.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So it's a question of will there be new music inside of the release of U39? And the answer is, oh my god, yes. This is actually some of, I think, the best work that I've heard from Bill at this point. The music is really good. At least the sequences that I've heard and I've seen and I've been able to hear so far.
Very cool. I am just showing off a little bit of camera space here, not just combat.
Yeah, this is actually taking place in the inside of the actual city itself, so we're not that far away from the docks at this point. And you know, obviously, the story is that you are chasing Kashyap through the streets, and what you're trying to do, or what he's trying to do, is get to Azagath, but at the same time, he's trying to. Oh, I totally just did a spoiler there, but at the same time, he's trying to get away, ultimately.
You can see this rain of arrows coming down, though. Those rains of arrows are coming from the enemies that are kind of hiding up in the rafters and other places, and they're bombarding the group with basically barrages of arrows, and that's what that represents. Kind of I guess this might be a bit of a noob question, but is it different working with this kind of space in a public area versus using it for an instance, and what kind of work has to go into that?
This is much... Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
This is much harder. Well, I'm not saying it's much harder, but it has its own challenges because, especially for wayfinding, some of the early iterations of this instance had a lot of wayfinding issues, just because there's so many places you can go into a city and different areas you can go in, right? So we had to do a lot of work to keep restricting, which ways you should go, which areas are lit, and so that you don't get lost or have wayfinding issues all the time. So that's probably the biggest challenge we have with it.
This instance also had some additional issues in that respect because it was designed to be a chase, and because when you're chasing, there's a lot of continuous movement through the space. So the trying to keep it feeling like a chase while also not promoting gameplay that's just pulling every mob to the end was an additional challenge that you have to keep in mind while you're designing this.
All right. So you'll notice I turned around. There's a reason I turned around there, and that is I'm not spoiling the final fight of this particular instance here. So we're gonna have to figure that out when update 39 arrives. But as long as we're here, let's talk loot. What can we expect for loot in these update 39 instances? What's up with that?
So there are different reward items in each space. There are a few very rare items that will be appearing exclusively on the Tier 4 and Tier 5 loot pools. We've got a couple little nuggets in that should help you want to keep coming back to all of the instances in this cluster. As well as we've got full sets of gear that are about to be coming out. We have a rare, that's the purple quality gear set coming out that you can earn from the instance spaces and the low tier raid, Tier 1 of the raid. And then we've also got a whole set of incomparable or teal gear that'll be coming from the raid, as well as those special bits on top that I was referring to. So there will be a lot of rewards to get, especially right when this comes out.
All right. And can we talk? Well, we'll talk about raid loot, I guess, as we get closer to raid loot. Let's head into the second instance here. This is Dahal Hûlis, the arena.
Dahal Hûlis, the arena. So this is actually the massive arena that is inside of Umbar Baharbal, which is the city proper. And this is the first time that we're using this space. It dominates the whole area that you're inside of. When you're actually inside of Umbar Baharbal, you can't escape seeing this because it's just such a massive place to visit and go. So we figured there was no way that we could get away from not using it for one of the instances.
This is where Taylor Swift performs. No? Okay. I had a question.
We need a bigger arena.
Yeah, you're right. Well, there's still lots of people here. What about these people in the background? That's pretty cool to have the kind of motion and sort of animations and what have you. What's the trick there? How do you make that work?
We're not FIFA. We're not a sports game that's full of arenas of crowds.
Yeah.
But we do have a few parts of the game. So these are pulled from areas that you might recognize, like big battles, where we've got crowds in the distance that are low performance impact, but give the illusion of lots of people watching. So we had to do a little bit of work to get them to work here in this space, but that felt important for it to feel like you are in an arena with actual audience members.
I'm going to guess that we're not sitting down and playing a game of chess here. This is an arena, and this is a battle. Basically, a battle of waves of enemies, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
That is exactly what this is. And as you can see, this is Râhal. So this is one of the kindred of the coin, who basically runs the arena. It's been alluded to that throughout the course of the story bits that were available inside of the launch of Corsairs of Umbar, specifically in the Cape of Umbar, that you were collecting specimens for Râhal for the arena itself. So we're following up on that, and there are actual specimens that you have collected out in the wild from the Cape of Umbar that make their appearance inside of this instance. Râhal is first and foremost a gladiator, and obviously the captain of a ship, and one of the kindred of the coin.
Who we've been interacting to this point for those who've been following the story. So let's talk just a little. We're not going to talk story spoilers, but how important to understand what's happening here is it that you've run Song of Waves and Wind? Because this does continue the story directly from that, does it not?
Not this particular piece. No, the raid is more closely tied to the overall storyline. The supporting pieces that we have in the instance structure are either tying off older story bits that were introduced last year, or they're tying off some of the story bits that were introduced as part of the initial launch of the Corsairs of Umbar. The raid really picks up at the end of the true epic story.
Okay.
So this is really just helping to solidify what Rothog is as a character, what his character really is, and what he is as a champion of the people and a gladiator that is really set about the whole presentation and pageantry of everything that goes into being a true gladiator.
Right, right. You'll notice I've got a little bit of a damage buff here that's been provided by one of the admins on the server here. That's why I think that's why these combat rounds are going so quickly, rather than sitting around.
I think you're on tier 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be why too.
Yep.
Plus, I think you're in much better gear than...
Yeah, I think I've got a buff, though, because normally I'm not one-shotting these things. But it looks better to have a play character on rather than an admin.
Oh, yes,
you have some weird kind of bits when you're on an admin. Alright, so I'm not going to... like I said, we don't want to spoil too much of this, but this one's straightforward. My cat is rustling around a stupid bag. What?
Yeah, the arena... Yeah. The arena's a bit more like the introduction of Rothog's storyline more than it is an end. So it's... And then, of course, the island that many of you seen on Bull Roar is definitely off on its own, too. The raid is the only one that really sort of continues the main story.
So you can see that the two in front of you now, this Bâch and Shackfoot, are actual characters that players have interacted with if they've gone through the Cape of Umbar before. Okay. So these are two enemies, and the story bits that really kind of coincide with all of Umbar is that when you are found guilty, you serve your time, guilty of a crime rather, you serve your time out in the raid, or sorry, in the arena.
Yeah. I don't want to talk to them. Am I gonna? Oh, I am gonna aggro them. So let's just take a look at them here now.
Yeah, I can make sure you won't lose.
Well, it's fine. I just don't want to spoil too much more of the instance here. I think this is probably where we should bail. Yep. But I think I'm gonna have to defeat them. Alright.
Just as a note, also, these obviously are a little bit slimmed down versions of the instances, since Cord is in here as a solo, in the solo version of the instance. Each instance has additional mechanics that kick in on higher tiers, even in their intended group sizes.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason, by the way, I'm in Anak Khorfu, and that is that the Elder Slade missions here are being upgraded to Delvings in Update 39, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on in the show. For some reason, I am not able to enter the Isle of Storms. Is that because you're still in the instance, Orion? Maybe?
Very well could be. I just came out.
Is that instance going to be a daily reset?
Open it up again, you should be fine.
Yeah. All right. So what's the reset mechanism on this? Do you know?
Daily? So as with existing instances, you can always go into the instance and run it regardless of what your chest loot locks are at. Though the outline for these right now on Bull Roar, you've got daily locks for the tier 1 solo version as you're used to, and then the group size versions have 4 locks per week.
Okay. All right. Another quick question from chat. Does anyone here know what the loot is in the instances? Do we have housing items in here? Anyone know the answer to that?
There aren't a ton of housing items in the pool. Most of the housing items from the Umbar region are on the barters that have been available since Update 38. the reputation, the allegiance barters. There are a couple sort of cosmetic rewards tucked into the reward pools here, but not a whole ton of things. If you're looking for like where are all of the Umbar styled stuff, that was already in the game on the barter vendors.
Okay. So, Ryan, tell me a little bit about what we're looking at here in regard. Well, this is over on the Shield Isles, correct?
This is so.
Yeah.
One of the objectives of this instance cluster was to do service to all the different biomes that were created. The city itself is just gorgeous, so we really wanted to try to show off some of the city, and then of course the arena, because it was just such a big focal point, we wanted to have a section of that. And of course, one of the just most beautiful areas that was created for the Corsairs of Umbar is the Shield Isles. And then when we launched the expansion, one of the aspects of the actual space that got a lot of traction was the proto enemies that were placed on a single island out in the middle of kind of nowhere, Belanzul, where players can go out and fight these larger creatures. So
which we'll be seeing very shortly. There's a reason I've kind of taken the path that I have, which is I'm saving the reveal for a second. One quick note: if you do get defeated in this instance, this is where you're gonna pop up. This is where you'll show up, and that's why there's a provisioner and healer there to kind of help you out if needed. So
that's kind of the inspiration, right? Is the whole aspect of Belanzul inspired this space.
Yep. All right. So now let's actually show you what you'll be. One of the things, a little bit more about what you'll be doing here. So you were saying proto creatures. Proto meaning big and mean.
Proto, initial, master, alpha, whatever you want to call them. They're based off of just the big nasties that are the thing that like that
like this
that
guy.
you would expect to see as the leader of their specific monster type.
Yeah. All right. So there'll be several fights in this. This is sort of a multi-boss instance, is it not?
Yes, there's actually, if I recall correctly, 3 complete boss fights in here with one kind of like survival battle that happens as you're venturing through. I wouldn't call it trash because it actually is kind of a little encounter in and of itself. But overall, it's a 3 real big boss fight.
Yeah, you see this one's, I'm not taking him out in one shot on this one. Although I think my buff might be gone too. But...
No, your buff is still there, I see.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just bad, in other words.
It's not as powerful as it was.
Yeah. So yes, actually, Broken Shield. In a little bit, we'll talk about the raid, but there is a sort of door and transportation mechanism as part of the raid for those who want to pick up where they left off, or who get defeated and need a little help getting back to the group. That will exist. Similar to what we did for the most recent raid, if I recall.
Yep, we did put in a progress quest that enables you to step through and go to the different boss fights inside the space.
You could either make a lot of boots out of this thing or one really big set of boots, but that would not be very nice. Alright. What else? What am I seeing in chat here? Are you in this instance? Okay, yeah, I was just going to say maybe you could smite,
of course I am.
Smite this guy and we'll move on.
I took care of him for you.
Yep.
Oh, I just hit you though. Oh, I knew I was going to do that.
Well, that's fine. I'll retreat and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, so you'll retreat over here.
I knew I was going to do that.
Alright, so let's take a few other questions from chat. Do we see anything here that we can answer? This presumably doesn't have to do with this instance directly, but we have a question from Daddy John. Are set bonuses being looked at? They would like you in particular to take a look at Blue Brawler.
Yeah, so a few set bonuses are definitely going to be revised. A couple set bonuses currently have bugs on Bull Roar; those are being fixed. But Blue Brawler is one where the set is going to significantly change the bonuses.
Okay. Alright. I have to... let me do one quick thing here. I'm hearing notifications from Discord, and the only way I could fix that is to go into the menu while I'm live on the air and turn off notification sounds. Thanks, Discord. This is my favorite feature. Alright, there we go. Alright, there we go. We're back. So, it's not just a big fight against... crocodile, right? That's a crocodile, not an alligator?
That is indeed a crocodile, not an alligator.
Have I been to Florida or what? So, I thought this was kind of fun too. This this conversation. But we have some undead here. So the problem, yes, I know I can set it to do not disturb. The problem is I am frequently switching accounts on Discord because of the various games that have Discords and various accounts tied to different communities. So can we expect to see the April Fool event this year? I believe the answer to that is yes.
The answer is indeed yes.
Yeah. That's already on the
It's
public
been-
event schedule, I think.
Yes, it is. And there was one minor bug that I actually just fixed, where last year the town crier in Belfalos was not able to, that's the housing area in Gondor, was not able to send you into the actual event. So that's been updated, so you can go from there too if you live in Belfalos.
Alright. So I'm heading up to... just taking care of these mobs here, and I'm gonna head up to the next boss fight, and then I think we'll probably leave it there. There is kind of a big fight at the end, but I'm not sure how much I want to spoiler it at this point. Although this is on Bull Roar for those who have opted in. It's a little bit of a story moment, is it not? So maybe I should hang off on that.
Yeah, I don't even think we should go through the entirety of the next fight.
Yeah. Well, I just thought
Although
we might show the thing that they were talking about here.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that
a lot of barrels around here.
What do I need to do? That's off this way, is it not? No. Came in from this side, I think, so over this way. Oh, okay.
So
Oh, okay, I did come in from this way, so let's head to the other way. Yep.
to the left.
Yep. So, side topic, probably because you were here, Orion. Can you talk a little bit about PvMP, post-update 39? What's on your agenda, if anything?
So we still have a lot of super secret sauce that is being prepped for the 41 release. There will be some minor adjustments along the way. There's definitely some bugs that are still out there that we need to address. There's some class balance effort that we need to look through. There are some changes that were made as part of the Corsairs of Umbar release that need to be adjusted, and there's a few things that because On was able to get the correct version of the tribe system in, we need to go back and make some adjustments to the tutorials so that they actually work correctly. So those are things that are on the agenda for 40. They shouldn't be all that difficult to really push through. And there are some more changes that I'm going to be making in an effort to try to get the whole siege aspect working correctly. But it's still one of those things where we need to get the time that's necessary to make that work. And we don't want to push it out before it's really ready to go. So it may come back to Bull Roar in the near future for more testing, but it's not something that we're tying ourselves to anytime in the immediate future.
There's a question from chat about class updates, and I think that that's worth getting into a little bit here while we kind of watch this instance unfold, which is that you've seen it, if you've watched Court of the Rings, the regular Friday noontime show that I do, which is really just kind of focused on news and information of the week and what have you, you'll see from the Bull Roar release notes that we actually do have some pretty extensive class tweaks and adjustments that are going into Update 39. It's a moderate to long list of class changes in Update 39. Do you want to hit any, maybe some of the bigger bullet points, some of the bigger features that we've been able to do for classwork here in Update 39?
So the list is a little misleading because a lot of it's really minor bug fixing stuff. Probably the significant thing is we started in actually prior to the release of the Corsairs of Umbar, but in Update 37.2 when the Mariner was released, we started rolling out some changes to how mitigation reductions work for enemies.
Okay.
So sort of broadly, we don't reduce enemy armor by rating numbers anymore, because this was a very mysterious thing. There were only a couple players who actually understand what the mathematical output was of, if you use a skill that says reduce enemy's armor by 12,000, that's, who knows what that means other than, one or two people, maybe three or four who have listened to that one or two. So those have been changed now to percentage values. So you can see more clearly on your skill tooltip, I use this skill, it reduces enemy mitigations by 3%. Or physical mitigations by 5%. That's probably the biggest actual class change across the board. So as part of that, a couple classes have seen mitigation reduction skills shift around. Like for champions, rather than rend, it's now on Blade Wall. That just means that you can use that regardless of what specialization you're in as a champion.
Sure. Sounds good. Someone wants mini games in Lotro, such as chess card games with Lord of the Rings characters, 3x3s, 5x5s, 10x10 arenas for PvMP. Thanks, Lotro Test, for the suggestion. I don't know. Probably Chris Pearson would be the one to know if there's any reference to the game of chess in the Lord of the Rings series. I'm going to say from my own memory, I think the answer is no. I don't think they have chess, so chess may not be possible. But I'm sure that there is some kind of game that could be lore appropriate that we could figure out.
The one that always comes to mind that is definitely textual is golf.
Yes.
And golf comes up periodically among all of us, because that one definitely has a clear tie to the lore in the game.
Yeah, everyone knows about that one. Even anyone who's seen the movies will know that one. So, Ryan, if you're in here, can you take care of Urabaz for me?
I shall.
Get out of the way so you can relatively smite. There we go. Alright, I think we're going to leave this instance then for now and head into the raid.
Don't know how much we should show since it does directly tie to the end of... It is the chapter capper, is the right way to say that, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think what I was thinking about the raid is we'll probably just show a little bit of the raid here. And then we'll just do some general Q&A and talk a little bit about the delvings and what have you here as well. But while we're here, let's at least show off a little bit of the raid space. The depths of Mâkhda Khorbo. You say Tier 1 and Tier 2 are debuting here with Update 39?
Tier 1 is debuting with 39 for certain. Whether or not Tier 2 will find its way in is still a question that we have. But we definitely want to get it out there. It's just a matter of making sure that it is actually ready for consumption at that point. Tier 1, because it is the actual completion capper to the current chapter of the Song of Waves and Wind, we want to make sure it's available for those players who want to play through it, which is why a lot of it is much easier to get through than if you were going into the Tier 2 or Tier 3 versions of the raid itself. Tier 2 has kind of been moved down to be more of moved up to to be more of a traditional run through of the raid. Tier 3 is a little bit harder. When Tier 4 and Tier 5 come on, the mechanics that are introduced really do amp up the overall difficulty and pressure of the spaces themselves.
We had talked a little bit earlier about a transportation mechanism for groups that want to go through the raid in a systemic way, and that's what we're looking at from what I understand right now, is through this door system and NPC,
Yes.
you'll be able to sort of pick up where you left off, or whoever has gotten the farthest will be able to speak to that NPC and thus be able to transport the raid group that they are with to whatever tier they're at.
Yeah, as long as you have completed boss 1, 2, or 1 or 2, you'll be able to use one of these doors. When the door is opened, you'll be able to then move to whichever section you want to. If you've gone through and beaten both two of the first 2 bosses, you'll be able to go to any of those other spots that you want to inside of the space.
And I'm, like I say, I'm kind of being careful about what I show here, but this is a really particularly neat-looking space, I think. It turned out quite nicely. I like the lighting effects.
Right now, if you're wondering where you are inside of the game, the Mâkhda Khorbo is the old temple of Sauron that fell when Sauron was defeated. So this is actually a connector that you have traveled underneath the land through tunnels and whatnot from the ocean itself, that is on the southeast edge of the Cape of Umbar, just as you're approaching Umbar Baharbal. It's just outside of Kutra. There's a very small fishing village where this is the entryway is actually built into the wall there. So you've traveled through this section and ended up somewhere inland by a large factor, where you are now underneath the world, well, the land itself, heading into the actual Mâkhda Khorbo, which was the old temple that fell, the temple to the all-seeing eye.
Related to the doors questions for the door system, does that reset with the locks? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay. We've had a couple people also, thank you, Ponton, for saying yes, there is in fact chess references in Tolkien. And apparently we actually have in a housing item I'd forgotten. We have a chess board. I don't think we have chess pieces, though, but we have a chess board. So.
Building the minigame for that would be difficult, right? There are actual games that are developed around chess. So is this something we would think about doing in the future? I can't say no, but it would be difficult to get something like that in.
As a really terrible chess player who happens to like chess, I am all in favor of us doing this. So
I'm just going to let you go here.
Yep. Apparently I took a little too much damage.
Don't try this alone.
Yeah, this is not going to go well. But as you can see, I've got they applied a buff on me so that I can't die. So they're also taking out my gear. I probably have really low level gear though right now. So, I don't know that... What else... I mean, should we show anything else of the raid here, or should we leave it where we are? Do we want to go one more space in, maybe?
I don't think we want to go one more space in. I think we do want to stop this here.
Okay.
I can fix this, though.
Yeah, if you either smite him or just teleport me back to, like, Anik Corfu, either would be fine. It's true, we've not given much more information about the hobby. I'm sure information about that will happen when the time is right. Can we get
We're a little more focused on update 39 right now.
Yeah. So you'll notice that those of us that are here right now are typically the systems team. We spent a lot of time getting these the instances put together to make sure that this all is ready for E39. So it's been a very collaborative effort that we've been going for, and I think that we're actually in a really good spot. And I'm feeling really good about where we're headed with everything that we've got in E39 at this point.
Broken Shield wants a plus 15 or higher fishing pole. Now that we have higher level fishing, we need better fishing poles. So
we've definitely got a note on that. We know that fishing poles are unevenly supported throughout the game.
Will the new raid instance gear from Tier 1 and 2, quote, replace at day 1 all crafted gear? Do you know? How does this compare to crafted gear?
So the set bonus gear is pretty much always going to outshine crafted gear. Whether or not that happens on day 1 depends on what kind of player you are more than anything. But the set bonuses themselves were always going to outshine the just raw stats from crafted gear.
Yep.
Keeping in mind that that's the main worn equipment slots. So we're not talking about jewelry. You're talking about helm, shoulders, chest, leggings, gloves, boots.
Okay. At one point, we must have talked about adding a hurdy-gurdy to the musical instruments in Umbar. Anyone know what the story is about that?
We did. We wanted to add the hurdy-gurdy. Oh. So I can't remember.
It's on the list.
On the
It's a lot of work to add a new instrument. It requires several different teams to do a chunk of work. Our composer definitely has some of it set up for the hurdy-gurdy. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is announced later on. But it's not like we don't have it on the clock imminently arriving.
All right.
But yes, it was definitely one of the things that we had asked, not asked, but we had planned to try to get in for the release of Corsairs of Umbar. It just ended up being an awful lot of work for what we were trying to get done in that period of time.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the delvings here quick. This is in the Anak Corfu War Room. I'm guessing quite a few players are probably familiar with this, having run, say, War of Three Peaks and well, all the way really through Fate of Gundabad. We were in here moderately often, speaking to Durin and what have you. These have been updated. All these missions, all of them, is that correct? Updated to delvings?
Almost. So there's 9 missions that are inappropriate for delvings for various reasons, whether they're non-combat or they're too difficult or for whatever reason. So there are 71 missions that have been converted. So, and those will all be announced in the release notes as well. So most missions have been converted to delvings for Elder Slaves. So
I don't know that we need to necessarily run a lot of the delvings here because you've seen them when you've seen the missions. But let's just pop into one here real quick. For a primer, what do people need to know to get started with these delvings? Anything they need to do other than just go to Anak Corfu and speak to these folks?
So you have the level 1 delving stone, which you can get from
right.
any of the mission givers. And then you level up your delving stone over time to unlock the higher levels. So we've done a bunch of things actually for U39 for delvings. All the malices have been changed, all their orientations and positions. So they're the same malices, but they'll appear on different days, different times. So we'll release an updated schedule with that, so you see that as well.
Yeah, let me actually call up a little bit of info I've got on that, because I thought that was pretty interesting. Not only do we have the 71 missions converted to delvings, but we've also added what are called epic malices. What the heck are epic malices?
So epic malices are mutations to the space or yourself. So the idea is they kind of affect more things around you. So, for example, we have orc tunnels. So orcs are going to tunnel under the ground beneath you. Every 90 seconds, basically an orc tunnel will appear, and then orcs will slowly pour out unless you destroy the tunnel. So another one is that epic tempest, where storms will spawn around you and release these hot spots, which have different either positive or negative effects. So they're kind of just modifiers for the actual space or for yourself. One of the ones that I am most excited about is epic fervor, which is the more enemies you kill, the stronger you're going to get. And the idea is that, maybe you're a player who only plays on level 4 or 5 usually. These are going to be on tier 9. Maybe you try a tier 9 one just to see, because you're going to get more powerful than you usually get. And maybe you'll see new malices that you wouldn't otherwise feel comfortable with, because you're going to be much more powerful as you go through the mission.
Speaking of power, we are updating Delving Armor to be level 150, and that's arriving later. Not immediately with the release of Update 39, but when Tier 3 of the new raid comes out, the Delving Armor is also being updated to 150.
That's correct.
I also understand these missions are on a slightly different schedule, down to 7 days instead of 10, in terms of the way they swap out.
That is correct for math reasons. Basically, we have 6 different variant days, so it doesn't quite work out that 10, which was the old schedule. You wouldn't see the same. You would see the same variants repeating. And this one you have so that every variant will appear on every mission over the course of a longer schedule.
Okay. For math reasons.
It's very technical.
All right, so I'm just putting up. We're moving to the Q&A section of the preview here, and so I've just got some looping video that was shot, static moving video here, that we're just going to have in the background. These are all shots from the new instances, and we can just have something cool up to take a look at. Is there anything else related to delvings and missions we should mention? Do we have a next after this? I know you just did 71, but
I don't want to say yet, but yes, there are plans for more conversions. I will also say these are always optional, so you don't have to engage with the delving system if you don't want to. But we just want to offer that to players who do enjoy engaging with it. I'll also say that we had some feedback about some of the delving effects and malices, and those have changed as well for update 39. So, for example, a lot of people didn't like all the puddles, the hotspots. There's just kind of not everyone really enjoyed that gameplay, so those effects have been capped at 2 per malice for those. So you won't have big stacking effects of poison puddles or firestorms. Those will only be a maximum of 2 effects per player.
couple of quick questions. Soft Snake GR, will the new instances have delvings available? Not with update 39 here, at least.
Nope.
Thandelin wants to know delving armor. Did I say armor up to 150? I believe that's what I said, and I think I'm correct. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
Okay.
You are correct. Yep.
All right. Are Umbari heraldry and WOC recipes being added to the delving vendor? I'm not sure.
Yes.
What WOC
So
is.
those should be on the delving barter vendor for delving writs with U39.
Okay. What can you say about Umbar resource zones? Do we have any plans for those?
So I'm going to assume that the question really is Umbar resource instances rather than Umbar resource zones. And the answer is, do we have a direct plan for them? No. Do we know that it's something that is desired? Yes. So as time allows, potentially, but it's not something that is on the top of any of our lists at this point in time.
All right. What about increasing the cap beyond 10 delvings a day? Have we given that any thought?
It's something we're looking at currently. We have heard that feedback, though. So.
Yeah. I have also heard the feedback, Salsa, about an official Lotro Discord server. There's some challenges in being able to launch something like that, and a lot of things you want to consider before, as a company, you open up the floodgates to a public Discord. But it's definitely something that we have discussed, and that is a possibility for the future. Okay, so why would I want to run Epic Malices or Tier 9 and above? Squirrel wants to know, what's the incentive for doing this?
There's a couple different reasons. If you just enjoy kind of different gameplay or want to see different effects happen, you've run these missions, maybe dozens of times to see different things and different interactions occur. And there's also ones that are either very positive for the player, all the way to negative. So they're more challenging, or they're easier depending on the day. So they're different players can go into them for different reasons.
We have a question about updating Lelia's market. That's something that we've considered over the years. It's really just a matter of finding the right mix of things to put in there and the right time to be able to carve out space to update Lalia's market. We have a lot of gear coming in that gets distributed across the various efforts that we're pursuing, and Lalia's has, I think, for a while been on the back burner for a while now. So we'll have to see on that. But it's not dead necessarily. It's just one of those things that we haven't gotten to in a while.
I would actually go so far as to say that it is a conversation that Myth and I have almost every 2 weeks in some capacity. Yeah. The importance of Alalia's market and ways that we can find to utilize it a little more effectively than we currently are.
Yeah.
So it's not something that is out of our minds. It really is just a matter of when we find the time to be able to to that, to update that, and then to dedicate the resources to it that are absolutely necessary to keep it moving forward. It's not dead by any stretch of the imagination. It's one of the things that we feel pretty strongly about. At least some members of the team are really on board with making adjustments to Lalia and making it more impactful and active than it currently is.
Yeah. I'm not sure, Zeus Pointer. I don't know what your question is asking about. Something about a blue bar? Do you know what they mean by what blue bar for VIP?
I would assume that would be experience.
The doubled experience that you get from being VIP each day.
Yeah.
Okay. I have not heard of changes to further adjust that. I mean, I think we already offer some benefit.
We do. I think this is probably stemming from the fact that we did mention VIP in the roadmap, right? So we have not sat down to start really explaining any of the changes that might be coming to VIP over the course of the next year, or any of the changes that are coming to kinship, or the new hobby that we're going to be pushing out there. What we're looking at right now is making sure that the instances and the updates to the delving system and the raid for 39 come out, and they're as strong as they can be. And then we move into U40, which is going to be a little bit different in the way that we're actually introducing content, but we're very excited about it, and we're actually really excited about how that direction is going to change and hopefully be able to carry us forward. And you'll start hearing about changes along those lines then. We are definitely dedicated to making sure that VIPs feel like they are truly VIPs.
Great. Blippity Blop wants to know about whether we'd ever offer a lifetime subscription again. I have personally answered this question a couple of times, and I know that Sev has as well. The answer is no. We have no plans to offer the lifetime subscription ever again for Lord of the Rings Online. And then if that ever happens, I'll just be wrong. But it's not going to happen, so sorry.
Oh, there was a question earlier about PvMP and 3v3, 5v5, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So there are a couple of challenges with that. One, our PvMP groups are still relatively small, except for on certain servers. Some servers are really heavy into the PvMP aspect of things. I'm looking at you, Evernight. That players are heavily engaged in that. The issue is that you don't want to break up the player base that is actively engaging in the PvMP experience. So building out those types of things needs to be done very carefully. That is not to say that we haven't looked at that in the past, or that we haven't actually traveled down roads to prototype that and see what it would do. It's just a matter of figuring out when the right time to do something like that would be. I think if we were to do anything like that in the future, and Un will find me after this and probably slap me around for saying it, but it would probably be during some kind of an event where we wanted to enable players to be able to do versus PvP or PvMP inside of the game.
All right. I just had to see a suggestion in chat about raising the level of luck stones from 15 to 20. Any thoughts about that?
They are purposefully set at the number that they are right now, because we want you to be spending them. We don't want you to hoard them. We want them to be spent. We want them to be used to go into the economy, to allow anyone who wants to upgrade their crafting gear to do so. So we don't have any intention right now of increasing the number of luck stones that you can carry around on your account beyond 15 right now.
I saw some questions in chat. Some people noticed this SSG t-shirt, which was made for employees, by the way. This was just a one-off that was given to employees back when we became SSG. So yes, the shirt's been a few years old at this point. But the reason I'm bringing it up, someone's asking, could we ever sell physical swag, coffee mugs, things like that? It's not impossible that that could happen someday, but it is fairly unlikely. And the reason for that has to do with the need to set up a new infrastructure of licensing and revenue and kind of legal contracts and what have you between the manufacturer of said physical products, Standing Stone Games, and all of the licensors that would be involved. And that's not to say that that work could never be done, but it would have to be done before we were able to offer some kind of physical swag with Lord of the Rings logos and things on it. And the amount of work that that would take so far has been a bit of a roadblock. That's the bad news. The good news is you could probably pick something up in a couple of weeks here. If you find yourself in Boston for March 21st, Thursday, March 21st, we're going to be at PAX East. We have a community meetup at the Harpoon Brewery in Boston. We're getting ready to do an RSVP for that. And we will have some swag, some Locher swag there. We always give away things at these kind of community meetups. And I say always because I've always been there, and I always give things away. So I can guarantee you, if I'm there and I've got a bag full of stuff, you can probably have something. There is an RSVP. You can find out more information about that on loadsure.com. So typically, in terms of how you get the swag, it is attending a community meetup. And the reason for that is something that would be made for a community meetup is generally considered promotional in nature rather than revenue generating in nature. And so the rules I just described related to the process of how we're allowed to distribute it to you is very different. As long as we're giving it to you for like a community meetup and stuff, we can do it. As far as like selling t-shirts, that's a very big ask. So that's ultimately what's going on there. We have just a couple minutes. We started a little late, so I'm letting us go a few minutes into 3 o'clock here. But do we have any final questions for the group before we start to wrap things up? Will the gold-crafted pocket cloak recipes be instance drops?
On a technicality, the answer is no. The actual recipes aren't the thing that you're looking for out of the instances, but key components of those will be.
Do we have a purpose for crocodile tails? Or is that just a general question? Are they asking why do crocodiles have tails? That I don't know.
No, there's a crocodile tail loot reward that I believe is hooked up to a food crafting recipe.
I once saw a thing of canned alligator at a grocery store down in Florida once, so I know that they'll actually eat alligator.
Doesn't taste exactly like chicken, but it's not awful. I've had alligator.
I'm going to say no on that one for me. I mean, I'm vegetarian anyway, but even if I wasn't vegetarian, I think I'd say no on alligator. So,
I see a question of whether or not Adso will ever build his inn. Adso's been building that thing for what, 17 years almost?
I think there have been supply chain problems.
There's a lot of supply chain problems out there.
Humans don't seem to make it out to Adso's work camp.
Maybe we need to get some protection for him, and then he can start building it again. Get bolted up.
Anthwell wants to know about new servers, and by that I'm going to read it as potential future legendary worlds. We have talked in very general terms that we have future legendary world plans, and as we get closer to their release, we'll have more information that we can say on it. I can't really say anything further than that at this point, but it is something that we are actively considering doing some work on, and we'll have more information on in the future. Same with the 64-bit client. I was in a meeting this week about the state of the 64-bit client, so I know work is happening on that as well. No ETA that I can announce for you today, however. What about Umbar crafting? Do we have more crafting plans in the works? This person is suggesting higher reputation levels.
There will be more Umbar crafting coming. That's about all I can say there.
And yes, Gorosy, that's what I mean. Well, we have a 64-bit launcher, and now we're going to have 64-bit server and game client. So. Any plans to improve game performance? We do have work that is underway. We have at least one engineer that I know has been doing some work related to digging into causes of game performance improvement or things that we can do. So I would expect to see more in future release notes. It's not something that we've abandoned. We are pretty much always actively looking at game performance, but we do have specific work being done as well this year. All right. Oh, I just killed your cameras again. There we go. All right. Any final questions then before we wrap things up? Otherwise, I think we'll call it here. Thanks very much, Myth and Orion and on Mac Mahal for joining me on this preview of Update 39 on twitch.tv/LotraStream. If you're watching this afterwards on YouTube as well, thank you so much for being here. Please give us a like and consider subscribing to our channel if you want to get all of our official Lotra live streams, casual strolls with scenario, and other things as well. So, and then what can we say about the release date for Update 39? Weeks, not months. Not next week.
Days, not weeks?
Not next week, ... I think I could say that. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But we'll have more information about the release date for Update 39 and the formal release notes as we get closer to it. And it is available for preview right now on Bullroar. So you can check out these instances with you and your friends. Get us some feedback over on the Lotra forums, and we really appreciate you doing that. So, all right, thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you.
And I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye-bye.